What happens when one of the most influential women in entertainment, a powerhouse who's spent 30 years building an empire that spans music, film, fashion, and business, walks onto a talk show expecting respect, but instead walks straight into disrespect? What happens when a woman who's survived every kind of criticism imaginable about her talent, her drive, and her ambition finds herself face-to-face with someone who sees powerful women not as guests, but as targets? This isn't just another interview gone wrong. This is what happens when discipline meets disrespect. When a billion-dollar brand meets a host mistaking sarcasm for substance. Jennifer Lopez, J.Lo, has spent her entire career breaking rules that weren't built to include her. From the Bronx to the Billboard charts, from background dancer to global icon, she's built her empire on pure determination and an unshakable belief that no one gets to define her limits but her. So when she sits down for what's supposed to be a professional conversation, a celebration of her new album, her booming businesses, her award-winning career, and instead gets hit with cheap shots about her personal life, that's not journalism, that's provocation. And what followed wasn't just a celebrity walking off a set, it was a masterclass in knowing your worth. Because this wasn't about gossip. It wasn't about tabloids or clickbait. This was about something much bigger. A woman reminding the world that success never means tolerating disrespect, and that real power sometimes means getting up and walking out of rooms that no longer deserve your presence. Let's rewind. The producers of The View had been chasing Jennifer Lopez for months. They wanted the A-list moment, the ratings spike, the headlines, and J.Lo, at 54, was arguably at the peak of her career. Again. Her new album was smashing streaming records. Her beauty brand was reshaping the cosmetics industry. Her production company was rolling out hits across platforms. And she'd just been announced as the recipient of a Lifetime Achievement Award, honoring not only her artistic success, but her business brilliance. Her team came in with clear boundaries. The discussion would highlight her work, her creativity, her influence, not tabloid gossip. The producers agreed enthusiastically, but behind the scenes, Joy Behar had other plans. "She's been married 4 times, Joy reportedly told her writers that morning. "We're not doing a puff piece." In her mind, asking about failed relationships somehow counted as getting real. But to J.Lo, and to millions of women watching, it was the same tired formula. Turn a woman's personal life into ammunition. Turn ambition into arrogance. Turn confidence into controversy. What Joy called exposing the real Jennifer Lopez, J.Lo recognized instantly. The recycled narrative used against strong women for decades. The idea that being assertive means being difficult. That setting high standards means being impossible. That having multiple relationships means you're unstable. But here's what Joy, and so many like her, fail to understand. Jennifer Lopez didn't build one of the most successful careers in entertainment by being agreeable. She built it by being unbreakable. By being smarter, sharper, and more relentless than anyone who tried to put her in a box. She became J.Lo by refusing to play small. And in that moment, when the questions turned from professional to personal, she did what every powerful woman eventually learns to do. She chose herself. Because sometimes the most iconic move you can make isn't clapping back. It's standing up, walking away, and reminding the world that not every platform deserves your presence. This wasn't just a talk show moment. It was a cultural moment. A reminder that success doesn't just mean staying in the spotlight. It means knowing when to take your light with you. This story isn't just about one interview. It's about the line between real journalism and thinly veiled hostility, between curiosity and condescension. It's about the difference between asking questions to understand and asking them to tear someone down. Joy Behar believed she was doing bold, fearless reporting, the kind that digs beneath the surface and exposes the truth behind the Hollywood polish. But what she was really doing was something far less noble. What she was really doing was showing in real time why some people never rise, because they spend their energy dragging down those who already have. Jennifer Lopez has faced everything: poverty, rejection, racism, sexism, doubt, and turned every single one of those obstacles into fuel. So when she sat there, listening to Joy disguise jealousy as journalism, she didn't flinch. She just saw it for what it was. And when she finally decided that this so-called interview wasn't worth her presence, when she reminded everyone that legends don't owe explanations to those who haven't earned the right to ask, it wasn't just a walkout, it was a statement. So buckle up, because what you're about to see isn't just a tense exchange on live television. It's a masterclass in self-respect, a real-time reminder of how to recognize when someone's trying to diminish you, refuse to play along, and walk away with your power and your empire intact. The studio that morning buzzed with excitement. The view's set glowed under its usual bright lights, the audience eager, the hosts ready. After all, this wasn't just any guest. Jennifer Lopez didn't need daytime talk shows anymore. At her level, every public appearance was a strategic move, not a publicity stunt. The fact that she'd said yes to The View was a big deal. It meant something, that she still valued connection, still cared about reaching the people who'd been with her since the beginning. Around the table sat the familiar faces: Joy Behar, Whoopi Goldberg, Sarah Haynes, Sunny Hostin, Alyssa Farah Griffin. Each of them knew today's show wasn't like the others. This wasn't a debate with a politician or a light chat with a reality star. This was Jennifer Lopez, an artist, entrepreneur, and cultural force whose influence stretched far beyond music and movies. Then, the moment arrived. When she walked out, the studio erupted. Because Jennifer Lopez, at 54, didn't just look like she had defied time. She carried herself like someone who had conquered it. The glow, the poise, the power. Everything about her presence commanded the room. Whoopi smiled, her voice full of genuine warmth. Ladies and gentlemen, Jennifer Lopez. Even she, an EGOT winner herself, seemed thrilled to have J-Lo in that chair. Jennifer greeted the audience with effortless charm, hugged each host, and took her seat like she owned every inch of that set. Calm, radiant, fully in control. Her outfit struck that perfect balance, relaxed yet undeniably expensive. Her hair, her makeup, every detail screamed flawless. But in that signature J-Lo way that makes it look like it just happens, "You look absolutely stunning, as always," Sarah said, and it wasn't flattery. It was awe. Jennifer smiled. "Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here." Her voice carried that unmistakable mix, the Bronx grit softened by global sophistication. Whoopi jumped in, doing what everyone had agreed on beforehand. "Let's talk about this incredible year you're having. The new album, the beauty line, your production company. You're literally everywhere right now." Jennifer's eyes lit up. Finally, the kind of conversation she came for. The work, the art, the passion behind everything she does. "It's been amazing," she began. "We've been working so hard on." And then it happened. "Before we get into all that," Joy interrupted. The shift was instant. Jennifer's smile froze. Not gone, just thinner. her expression still pleasant, but the warmth had faded. She knew that tone. Every powerful woman does. "I want to ask you about something," Joy said, leaning in, her voice carrying that unmistakable mix of curiosity and challenge. "Something I think a lot of people are really curious about." The air in the studio changed. The energy shifted. And in that split second, everyone watching could feel it. That this conversation was about to go somewhere it shouldn't. "Jennifer, you're receiving this incredible Lifetime Achievement Award," Joy began, smiling just enough to look polite. "But you've also had, well, let's call them setbacks in your personal life." And just like that, the temperature in the studio dropped. The change in Jennifer's face was subtle, almost imperceptible. The kind of micro-shift only someone who's spent decades in front of cameras could master. The warmth was gone. The charm was still there, but now it was measured, guarded. "I'm here to talk about my work," Jennifer said evenly. Her voice was calm but firm, a line quietly drawn in the sand. "That's what we agreed on." Joy waved her hand as if swatting away the boundary. I know, but you're a public figure, right? Your personal life is part of your story. I mean, 4 marriages, Jennifer. That's a lot of failed relationships for someone who's supposed to be this icon of success." The word failed hung in the air like a slap. Across the table, Sarah shifted uncomfortably. Sonny's eyes widened. Even Whoopi, who'd clearly seen this train wreck coming, looked ready to intervene. Jennifer's jaw tightened, a tiny movement, but the audience felt it. The calm before the storm. "First of all," Jennifer began, her tone icy but composed, "I don't consider any of my relationships failures. They were experiences. They taught me things. And second, this has nothing to do with why I'm here or what we agreed to discuss." Joy pressed on, oblivious or maybe determined. "But it does, though. You present this image of having it all. The perfect, successful woman. But the truth is, you've had multiple failed marriages. You've had public breakups. People say you're difficult to work with." "Stop." Jennifer's voice cut through the air like a blade. The studio froze. Even the audience went silent. That deep, collective hush that happens when everyone realizes they're witnessing something real. "Just stop right there." Joy blinked, caught off guard. "I'm just asking questions people want answered." "No," Jennifer said, her tone sharp and unflinching. "You're not asking questions. You're making accusations disguised as questions. And there's a difference. If you don't understand that, it says a lot about your approach to journalism." The tension was electric. Joy's face flushed. Part embarrassment, part defiance. But Jennifer wasn't done. "You call this an honest conversation?" she asked, leaning forward slightly. "You think it's honest to reduce 30 years of work? The music, the films, the businesses, the impact? To who I've dated or married? You think it's honest to use words like failed and crashed when we're supposed to be celebrating achievement?" Every word hit like a hammer. Gone was the carefully media-trained superstar. In her place stood the Bronx-born fighter, the woman who had clawed her way to the top, who had faced every kind of bias, and still built an empire. Brick by brick, Joy tried to recover. "Well, your relationships are part of your public narrative." Jennifer cut her off instantly. "My work is my public narrative. My achievements are my public narrative. The empire I built from nothing is my public narrative." Her eyes locked onto Joy's. "My relationships are my private life. And the fact that I've shared pieces of that with the world doesn't give anyone permission to weaponize it against me." The audience was dead silent now. You could almost hear hearts beating. Jennifer leaned forward, her tone lower, steadier, almost surgical in its precision. Do you have any idea what it takes to succeed in music, film, fashion, and business all at once? To not just succeed, but dominate for decades, when you started with nothing? Do you understand the kind of discipline that requires? Joy opened her mouth to speak, but Jennifer wasn't done. Not even close. For 30 years, she continued, I've dealt with people trying to shrink my success down to something they can understand. My looks, my love life, my ethnicity. Anything but the work itself. But the truth is, I wake up at 5 a.m. every single day. I train for hours. I run my companies I create. I perform. I build. And I've done it all without shortcuts, without excuses, and without letting anyone tell me I wasn't enough. You could feel the power in her voice, the authority of someone who had earned every ounce of respect she demanded. And in that moment, Jennifer Lopez wasn't defending herself. She was defining herself. This wasn't anger. This was clarity. It was years of restraint, finally finding its voice. Because when you've built something from nothing, when you've turned rejection into empire, you don't owe anyone an explanation. You just owe yourself the truth. I spend 12-hour days rehearsing, on set, in meetings. I run multiple companies. I employ hundreds of people. I create opportunities. I've broken barriers for Latinas in entertainment. I've changed how this business works. Jennifer's voice was rising now, not shouting, but commanding. The Polish was gone. The truth was taking over. And you, she continued, you want to talk about my failed marriages, like that's the most interesting thing about me? The audience was frozen. What they were watching wasn't the carefully packaged superstar they'd seen on magazine covers. This was the real Jennifer Lopez. Raw, unfiltered, standing up not just for herself, but for every woman who's ever had her success reduced to gossip. Joy tried to push back, her tone defensive. I'm just saying, for someone who's held up as this icon. Jennifer laughed, a sharp, cutting sound that stopped her cold. Held up by who, Joy? The millions of fans who love my work? The partners who've made billions collaborating with me? The brands that fight for my name? Or by people like you, who can't stand to see a successful woman thrive without tearing her down? Joy's face flushed deep red. I don't resent successful women, she said quickly. Don't you? Jennifer asked quietly, her tone calm, but her eyes fierce. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you invited me here pretending to celebrate my career, and the first thing you did was try to attack my personal life. That's not journalism, Joy. That's mean girl energy with a television budget. You could feel the air tighten. Whoopi Goldberg, ever the professional, finally stepped in. Jennifer, let's talk about your new album. But Jennifer turned toward her, her voice soft but steady. Whoopi, I love you for trying to steer this back. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend that the last 5 minutes didn't just happen. I'm not giving this show the satisfaction of pretending it treated me with respect. And with that, she stood up. The movement was smooth, deliberate, the kind of grace that comes from decades in the spotlight. She began removing her microphone with practiced precision. What are you doing? Joy asked, suddenly realizing what was happening. The panic in her voice betrayed it all. She was about to lose the biggest guest The View had booked all season. I'm leaving, Jennifer said simply. Her tone was calm again, but now there was no anger, only conviction. I came here in good faith to talk about my work, my achievements, the things I'm proud of. Instead, I was ambushed by someone who thinks successful women need to be taken down a peg. You're being overly sensitive, Joy said. Her voice rising, Jennifer turned back, eyes locked on hers. Sensitive? She repeated. You think standing up for myself is being sensitive? She took a breath, steady but strong. Let me tell you something about sensitivity, Joy. I've been called every name there is. Told I can't sing, can't act, that I'm just a pretty face, that I'm too Latina, or not Latina enough, too ambitious, doing too much. I've heard it all. She placed her microphone gently on the chair. And do you know what I did with all of it? I used it as fuel. I worked harder. I became more successful. I built an empire that speaks louder than any insult ever could. Her eyes narrowed slightly. So no, I'm not sensitive. I'm selective. And I'm choosing not to waste another second in a room where someone's trying to diminish me. The room was silent, except for the faint hum of cameras. Joy stood up, desperate to regain control. If you walk out now, you're just proving you can't handle tough questions. Jennifer stopped mid-step, turned slowly, and her laugh was low, sharp, and devastating. Tough questions? She echoed. Tough questions are about my creative process, my craft, my business strategies, about how I've managed to succeed in 4 industries at once. That's tough journalism. What you asked were lazy questions designed to embarrass me. There's a big difference. And then she walked toward the edge of the stage. At first, the audience was quiet, stunned. But then the applause started, soft, scattered, then stronger, louder. They weren't clapping because she stormed off. They were clapping because they understood exactly what she'd just done. She wasn't walking out in anger. She was walking out in power. She had drawn a line. She had said, enough. And in doing so, she reminded everyone watching that real success isn't about enduring disrespect. It's about knowing when to stand up and walk away. You need this show more than we need you, Joy called out. One final desperate attempt to save face. Jennifer stopped, turned back slowly. Her expression softened. Not angry now, just disappointed. Almost pitying. Joy, Jennifer said, her voice steady but razor-sharp. I have 100 million followers on Instagram. I have platinum albums, #1 movies, and billion-dollar business deals. I have opportunities coming at me from every direction. More than I could possibly accept in 10 lifetimes. She gestured calmly toward the studio, the set, the cameras, all of it. Let's be honest. This show needed me a lot more than I needed it. That's why your producers called my team for months. That's why you agreed to my terms. And that's why this is such a disaster for you. Because you had Jennifer Lopez on your show. And instead of celebrating one of the most successful women in entertainment history, you tried to tear her down. Her tone didn't rise. It didn't need to. Every word landed like a thunderclap in the silence that followed. And now, she continued, quieter, but somehow even more powerful, all anyone will remember is that J-Lo walked out because you couldn't stay professional. The studio was still. You could hear a pin drop. Joy opened her mouth, once, twice, searching for something to say, but there was nothing that wouldn't make it worse. Jennifer shook her head slowly. You know what the saddest part is? I wanted to talk about the work. I wanted to talk about creating opportunities for Latin talent, about building companies that employ thousands of people. I wanted to share how I've managed to stay relevant for 30 years in an industry that tosses women aside the second they turn 30. Her voice softened, but the disappointment was unmistakable. But you weren't interested in any of that. You wanted to tear down another successful woman. Probably because seeing someone else succeed makes you uncomfortable with your own choices. She paused, letting the words sink in. "That's not my problem, Joy. That's yours." Then Jennifer turned, not to Joy, not to the hosts, but to the main camera, straight to the audience at home. To anyone watching who's ever been made to feel like your success doesn't matter because someone wants to focus on your failures, don't let them. Your achievements are real. Your hard work matters. You don't owe anyone an explanation for how you live your life, or who you love, or what you choose for yourself. You owe yourself respect, and the courage to demand it. The audience broke into applause, genuine, emotional, unstoppable applause. Jennifer turned back to the panel, her composure flawless. "Whoopee, you're always a class act. I'm sorry this happened on your show. Sarah, Sunny, Alyssa, you all seem lovely, and I'm sorry you had to sit through that." Finally, her gaze fell on Joy. Calm, cold, and final. "And Joy, next time you book someone who's actually accomplished something, try celebrating them instead of tearing them down. Because that's what journalists do, that's what professionals do, and that's what secure women do when they're around other successful women." And with that, she walked off the stage. Her stride was deliberate, confident, the kind of exit that becomes legend. The room behind her dissolved into chaos, producers scrambling, the audience in awe, Joy standing there with nothing left to say. Whoopi sat stone-faced, furious but unsurprised. She had warned them. Sarah and Sunny looked shaken. Alyssa looked like she was questioning every career decision she'd ever made. Joy tried to recover, tried to spin it. She cracked jokes about Jennifer being too sensitive, tried to frame it as ego, insecurity, but the damage was already done. Every word out of her mouth only proved Jennifer's point. Because what the world saw that day wasn't a diva walking off a set. It was a woman drawing a line. It was power refusing to play small. And the world noticed, instantly. Within minutes, clips of the confrontation flooded social media. Hashtags exploded. Hashtag JLO, hashtag RespectJLO, hashtag Jennifer Lopez. All trending worldwide. Millions of people across countries, languages, and cultures watched that moment and saw not arrogance, but boundaries. They saw a woman who had built an empire with her bare hands, refusing to let anyone, not even a talk show host, chip away at it. Entertainment journalists called it one of the most iconic live TV moments of the decade. Business magazines analyzed it as a case study in professional composure and self-worth. Cultural commentators dissected the deeper message: how women, especially women of color, are too often forced to defend the success they've earned 10 times over. Because, as one headline put it best, Jennifer Lopez didn't walk out of The View. She walked into history. Despite the undeniable success of the show in the past, something changed overnight. The ratings didn't just dip, they plummeted. Publicists from major Hollywood agencies began calling, asking one question: what exactly happened on that set? Within days, A-list celebrities quietly pulled out of scheduled appearances. Producers scrambled. The incident had become a case study in how to destroy your show's credibility in 5 minutes flat. Joy Behar released a statement later that afternoon. Not an apology, but a justification. She claimed she was just asking questions people wanted answers to, insisting that celebrities who live in the public eye should expect scrutiny, but her words only made things worse. It became painfully clear that she still didn't understand the line between genuine journalism and mean-spirited provocation. Meanwhile, Jennifer Lopez didn't say much. She didn't need to. She simply posted one photo to Instagram, her standing tall, radiant, powerful. The caption read, "Know your worth, protect your peace. Walk away from rooms that don't recognize your value." Always. That was it. No explanation, no shade, just truth. And the internet erupted. Within hours, the post became a global anthem, a rallying cry for everyone who'd ever been made to feel small by someone threatened by their success. Tens of millions of likes, millions of shares. Everywhere, people quoted her words, "Know your worth. Protect your peace." Her album sales skyrocketed. Her beauty line sold out in hours. Her production company announced 3 new deals in the same week. And when she finally took the stage at her Lifetime Achievement Award ceremony, she didn't mention The View. Not once, but every line of her acceptance speech spoke volumes. She talked about resilience, about perseverance, about refusing to let others define you. It was gracious. It was powerful. And it became an instant classic. The kind of speech that would be studied, quoted, and remembered for years. The incident did something bigger than anyone expected. It sparked a global conversation. People began asking hard questions about how we treat successful women. Why ambitious men are called driven, while ambitious women are called difficult. Why women are reduced to their relationships, while men are celebrated for their results. Commentators pointed out the deeper truth. The intersection of sexism and racism that Latina women, in particular, have had to overcome just to be taken seriously in industries they helped build. Some defended Joy, saying public figures should expect tough questions, but most people saw what it really was: a lesson in the difference between holding someone accountable and tearing someone down, between curiosity and cruelty, between journalism and jealousy. And then came the biggest shift of all: the power dynamic. In the old Hollywood system, celebrities needed talk shows for exposure. They needed the approval of gatekeepers like The View. But Jennifer had just shattered that model. She proved that A-list celebrities with massive platforms and direct access to their fans didn't need those old institutions anymore. She showed that if a platform disrespects you, you can walk away and still win. Because when someone as iconic, as accomplished, and as unshakably confident as Jennifer Lopez draws a line and says, "I don't have to tolerate this," something fundamental changes. Her walkout became more than a viral moment. It became a cultural shift. A reminder that you can be powerful and graceful, ambitious and feminine, strong enough to fight, but wise enough to walk away. In the months that followed, other women started doing the same. They began setting boundaries in interviews, refusing invasive personal questions, demanding that their achievements, not their private lives, be the focus. Jennifer had given them permission to protect their dignity unapologetically. Meanwhile, The View continued, but it was never the same. The energy was different. The tone had shifted. The audience had seen the curtain pulled back. They'd seen what happens when arrogance meets accountability. The industry learned a simple lesson that day. Disrespect Jennifer Lopez, and you don't just lose an interview. You lose her power, her audience, and your credibility. All at once. As for Jennifer, she returned to doing what she's always done, running her empire, making her music, producing her films, expanding her businesses. And in doing so, she proved a timeless truth. The best revenge is success, the kind that rises so high, no criticism can touch it. Her walkout became another legendary moment in a career built on legendary moments. Another reminder of why she's lasted 3 decades, while others faded away. Because Jennifer Lopez understands something too many people forget: that true power isn't about shouting louder or fighting harder. It's about knowing your worth, protecting your peace, and walking away from any room that refuses to recognize your value. with your head held high and the whole world watching in awe.